guys, let's go to part 2 of our review, and let's move to problem 15, okay? We're just going to work a few, try to get through as much as we can today, and then we'll finish up what we can on tomorrow. It says 2 boats leave the dock at the same time, right? We're on 15, and set off on a course that diverges by 29 degrees. If one boat travels 42 miles per hour and the other boat travels 58 miles an hour, how far will they be in 3 hours? Okay, first of all, you remember they're having to travel for 3 hours, right? So the 42 miles an hour at 3 hours would put him at 126 miles, right? And the other guy that travels 58 miles in 3 hours would be 58 times 3 is 174. And the other important thing is it diverges at 29 degrees. So you've got this boat sitting here, right? Here we are. So you can see the picture. One's going one way, one's going the other. They diverge at 29 degrees, right? One boat's gone 126 miles and one boat's gone 174 miles. And the question is, how far apart are they now? That's what I want to know. I want to know how far apart they are now. Okay, so we can use the same as we've done before. We've got law of sines. Will that work? We've got a side that matches an angle. I have an angle with no angle with the side and no angle with the side. Is the law of sine going to work? No, it's not going to work. So I want you to look back then on the back of your formula sheet and tell me what formula is going to have to work. If law of sines won't work, which one would work? Okay. Do you remember the law of cosine formula? Remember where this side matched this angle? Correct? So if I have angle A, it will find me side A. Or if I have side A, it will find me angle A. Remember those? And you could replace these and put B here instead. Okay, you could change it up. If you put B there, then C would go here. So it doesn't matter, right, which one you use. Okay, so let's make the formula work then. If I'm looking for x, I'm going to say, all right, x squared equals, we're going to do the other two sides. So 126 squared plus 174 squared. Y'all remember this formula? Minus 2 times, and you fill them in again, 126, 174. Okay, and it's law of cosine. So we put cosine of which one matches your x, right? X and angle 29. So you put a 29 here. This is the easy one. Because I already have x squared all by itself, you just type this straight in your calculator. Okay, you type it straight in. When you do, you get this huge number, 7,801.68. And the reason it's so big, guys, they're not going to be 7,800 miles apart. All right, what did we forget to do here? This is x squared, right? So you have to take the square root of this answer, which makes it 88.33 miles. Okay? All right, I'm going to let you try the next problem on your own. Right? Go ahead and set it up and see if you can find the length of side B. Okay, given the right triangle, so you know it's a right triangle, Okay, and that B is 14 and A is 27. So B is 14 and A is 27. Okay, if you know this is 90 and this is 14, the other angle has to be 76. The side across from 14 is what we're looking for, right? The length of side B. That's what's missing. So if you put the two pieces together that you know for your law of sine formula, it would be the 14 and the B and the 76 and the 27. So sine of 76 over 27 equals, right, the sine of 14 over B. You can type it into your calculator. Okay, if you do sine of 76, don't forget to close your parentheses. I'm sorry, sine of 14 times 27. Hit enter. Don't forget those parentheses have to be closed. And then divide that by sine of 76. Then you get B as 6.73. It was a very easy problem. Okay, now let's move on to number 17. Go ahead and read it and try to set it up. Okay, now let's do problem number 17. Okay, how many triangles are there? All right, so we've got to draw a picture here, first of all. Here's our triangle. If we do ABC, then we know that A is 49.8. Okay, we know side A is 13.9. And side B is 16.4. And it's asking how many triangles that there are. Now, I don't know if you remember this, but when you were given law of sines, okay, and you find the next triangle, remember if the next triangle you find, in this case it would be angle B because I have side B. So if angle B is bigger than the angle they already gave us, which would be angle A, okay, so if angle B is bigger than angle A, there are two triangles. Okay? If angle B is smaller than angle A, okay, there is one triangle, remember? So let's find angle B and see what happens. Remember, these go together. Okay? So we're going to say sine of 49.8 over 13.9 equals, I have side B, so we're going to use sine of angle B over 16.4. Now, on the problem 16, we were missing a side, and yesterday we were always missing sides. Today we're missing an angle. So that, if you'll remember, has to be done a little bit different. Turn your calculator on. Let's multiply sine of 49.8 times 16.4. Hit enter and divide by 13.9. You're going to get 0.901. So sine of B equals 0.901. But remember, that means the sine of B. We want angle B. So you take the inverse of that. Inverse of sine of 0.9011. It's been a while since we've done that. And you end up with 64.3. So angle B is 64.3, which was bigger than the original 49 degrees, 49.8. So that means that there are two triangles. All right, number 18. Find the area of the triangle where A is 9, B is 11, and C is 18. So look at your formula sheet for area of a triangle. It's on the back. Remember, to find the area, you do 1/2 times AB sine of C. In other words, you want the two sides around the angle. If we draw a picture, ABC, A is 9, B is 11, and C is 18. The formula for area means we need at least one angle. It did not give us any. So to find an angle with 3 sides, that's where you have to use the law of cosine again, this formula here. You just have to pick which one you want. Okay, so if we pick 18, let's say, we're going to take 18, which means we're going to find angle C. Remember, we always start with the side. So 18 squared equals the other 2 sides, minus 2 times 9 times 11. It's the law of cosine. So you're going to do cosine of your missing C. It's been a while since we've done this, but in your calculator, the problem we did earlier was number 15, right, with law of cosine, and we were looking for x squared, so we just typed it straight in our calculator, nice and pretty. But unfortunately, we don't have that luxury on this problem. We're looking for angle C. So in order to solve it, remember we do the subtract twice and divide 3 times, so type in your 18 squared. We've got to move the 9 and the 11 over, so minus 9 squared minus 11 squared, and hit enter. Then we've got to move these 3 things over. So we divide, should be 11. Divide by negative 2. We subtract twice and divide 3 times. Divide by 9 and divide by 11. So you get negative 0.616 equals cosine of C. To find C, you take the inverse of that answer. The inverse cosine of negative 0.616. $128. Angle C is 128.04. I'm going to fill it into my triangle so we can label it. And go back to the actual question. The question was find the area. Formula for area says we need 1/2 times a side, and sine of the angle in the middle. Remember, that's the formula. If you look at it like that from that information, here's my C. Remember law of cosine? There's the C. The angle with the 2 sides. So to utilize that, we'll say 1/2 times 9 times 11 times the sine of the angle in the middle, which would be 128.04. Type it in your calculator and tell me what you got for the area. Type it straight in. .99 units squared. Okay. Number 19. In triangle ABC, if A is 41 and B is 4 and C is 16, find A. Right, draw a triangle. ABC. A is 41, B is 4, and C is 16. Okay, is that a law of cosine or a law of sine problem? Remember my little trick. All the data is kind of right there in one corner. So it's law of cosine, correct? And the direction is find A. So you're looking for this leg right here. If you get your formula sheet out, remember these go together and you always start with the side. So A squared then equals the other 2 sides. 16 squared plus 4 squared minus 2 times 16 times 4. It's the law of cosine, so cosine. This A goes with this 41. So if I use the A, I have to use the 41. This is the easy problem, right? Because everything you need is on one side. So just type it in and take the square root. I'll give you a second to type it in. 175.39. If you take the square root, you get 13.24, which is the length of A. Alright, now let's move on to problem 20. Okay, so for problem number 20, it says convert the given polar coordinates to rectangular coordinates. Number 20 is given to you in r theta form. If you use your formula chart, if I want polar coordinates, then I wanted an x, y form for rectangular coordinates, X equals, remember, r times cosine of theta, which would be 3 times cosine of 150 degrees. On our unit circle then, we're going to find that cosine at 150 is negative root 3 over 2. I want 3 over 1 then times negative root 3 over 2. If you multiply straight across, that gives you negative root 3 and then 2. Negative 3 root 3 over 2 is the x part. Now we need the y value part. To find y, we take r times the sine of theta. There's r is 3, and I want sine of theta, which would be sine of 150. Use your unit circle. It's going to mean 3 over 1 times whatever sine at 150 degrees is. Sine at 150 is 1/2. So these are fractions, so you multiply tops and bottoms, so 3 over 2. There's the xy coordinate, the rectangular coordinate. All right, you try number 21. This is r, and this is theta. Give it a try. When you're finished, your final answer would be negative 4 root 3 over 2, comma, negative 2. You can come back and finish that problem later. You want to be sure you can do these, because there's at least one of these on your final. Number 22. Convert the given rectangular coordinates to polar coordinates. Polar coordinates are the r theta. Right? In order to find r, remember you have to take the square root of x squared plus y squared. So let's find r first. This is x and this is y. R is the square root of 2 squared plus a negative 3 squared. Just do me a favor. Just type in your calculator what's under the radical, remember? So 2 squared plus, be sure to put parentheses around your negative 3. So really that's going to be 4 plus 9, which is the square root of 13. Therefore, r is the square root of 13. The other thing you need to remember is that tangent of theta equaled y over x. I found r. I'm good to go for the r part. Now I need to use the formula to find theta. Theta, then tangent of theta equals the y, which is negative 3, over 2. Okay, if I'm looking for an angle, and I want to get rid of tangent, remember I just take the inverse tangent. The inverse tangent of negative 3/2. Type it in your calculator. You end up with negative 56.31. Correct? Where we don't want a negative value, if you look at your picture here, 2, negative 3 is in this quadrant. So if I want tangent to be positive, where do I need tangent to be? I need it to be here. Correct? So to get there, or to get back, what are you going to have to do? Tangent that they gave us is negative 56, correct? Which occurs where? If you have negative 56 degrees, okay, where would you be? Versus what are you allowed to have negative as your answer? Look at your unit circle and see what you're supposed to do there. Okay, so if you look at your picture, here's 2, negative 3. Tangent is supposed to be negative, and I am where tangent is negative. But your answer has to be positive, so you've got to make one whole circle around. So you add 360 to that to get it positive, which is all you would need to do, and still be where you're supposed to be. You end up with 303.69, which is theta. Your answer then would be root 13, 303.69 degrees. Okay, for time's sake, I'm going to let you come back to 23. The answer, just so you have it, is 4 root 3 over 2, which is a negative, comma, I apologize. The answer to number 23 is 4 and then 0 degrees, actually. 4, 0 degrees. So this is R, and this is theta. Okay, 4, 0. All right, number 24. We're getting closer, guys. Express each in complex number in polar form. This is where we know that this is x plus yi, correct? And if I want it in polar form, then I want it to change it to the square root of a number and then CIS theta, remember, or R CIS theta. That's what it's looking for. R CS theta. So first step would be to find R and then find theta. If negative 2 is x and 7 is y, that will help. Remember to find R, we're going to take the square root of negative 2 squared plus 7 squared, which gives you the square root of 53. Okay, so you're close to there. Now you need to find theta. So you're at root 53 CIS. In order to find theta, remember tangent of theta equals y over x, which would be 7 over negative 2. In your calculator, type in the inverse of 7 over negative 2. The inverse tangent of 7 over negative 2. The inverse tangent, 7 divided by negative 2, negative 74. Again, with a negative. Negative 74.05. All right, think about this for just a second. If you plotted this picture here, you're at negative 27, which is up here. Okay? You're in a quadrant where tangent is negative, which that's okay. You got a negative answer. I need to get all the way back to here, but I want to keep it negative. So in this particular one, you would only have to add, to get here, to keep it negative, 180. You wouldn't have to go all the way back around. Would it work? Type in negative 74 plus 180 to give you, yep, a positive, 105.9. So theta is 105.95. Okay? Now again, the reason, if you're not sure why we only added 180, if you think about it, negative 74 degrees occurs here, right? This is negative 74. My job is to get all the way back to the point, okay, which is only halfway across. which is 180. I didn't have to make a whole circle. All right, the answer to 25 for time, because I don't have time to go over it, is 3 CIS 0. Okay, 26. Express each complex number in rectangular form. This is r, this is theta, and I want rectangular form, which would be xy, on an ordered pair. Remember that x equals r times the cosine of theta, which would be 6 times, now this one's a little different the way that it's in this form. So you're going to do 6 times cosine of 300, which would be 6 times 1/2, because the cosine at 300 degrees is 1/2. So 6 times 1/2 is 3. To find y, you're going to do r times the sine of theta, which would be 6 times sine of 300. Sine at 300 is root 3 over 2. Be careful. 6 over 1. And then if you reduce, you put a 1 here and a 3 here, you actually get 3 root 3. I'm going to skip down to 28, and it says plot the following coordinates. Remember this little trick. When you try to plot these, you always start with the angle first. So you go to 150, which on this unit circle would be here. Then you look at the r, which is -2. The radius is -2. So instead of going towards your angle 2, you go away from your angle 2, which will be right here. So here's A. Now then you try B. Remember, start with your angle first. Be careful, it's negative. I'll give you a second to try. Alright, -120 means you count backwards. 30, 60, 90, 120. So you're going to go the same way the other direction. 30, 60, 90, 120. So you're here. My r is 4, which means you go 4 towards that mark. 1, 2, 3, 4. There you are at B. Alright, let's move to 29. Okay, think if I can get you through 29, then you can do 30 on your own and we'll be done for today. First of all, just read 29. Right, the easiest one is the two parametric equations, remember? The two parametric equations is where you write x equals and y equals. X equals, this is the x value, so 4 is the x value, plus 9t, remember? You try the y. Y would equal then what? 6 plus -7t, correct? Right, so since the 7 is negative, I'm going to change this to -7t. Then it wants the velocity and the speed of the boat. The velocity just comes from here. Which we're going to write as 9, -7. Don't worry about the speed. You won't be asked for that. Next asks for when and where the boat should come into contact. This was the more tedious part the kids kind of struggled with, remember? It always gave us this piece of information here, which is important. If I want to know when and where, I'm going to involve time. Remember, you just plug this in for x and this in for y. That's how you do it. So let's try that. 5 times 4 plus 9t. That came from here. I plugged this into the x. Then there's a minus, which is what threw everybody off, which means I want minus all of 6 minus 7t to equal 9. Be sure to distribute that negative when you clean this up. So 20 plus 45t minus 6 plus 7t equals 9. Our goal now is to solve for the only variable we have, which is t, which is the goal, win. When you simplify 45 and 7t together, you get 52t. Put the 20 and the negative 6 together to give you 14 equals 9. Now move the 14 over. Divide by 52. Here's your win. To find where, you just plug this number in to x and y. So to find x, I'm going to take 4 plus 9 times negative 5 over 52. To find y, I'm going to plug negative 52 into here. 6 minus 7 times negative 5 over 52. You're going to get decimals, but if you hit math inner, okay, on here and here, it will turn into a fraction, which is 163 over 52, comma 347 over 52. I'd like for you to try 30, and when you're finished with 30, you can put your things away. We'll check 30 together when I get back tomorrow. Thank you for all your hard work.